So first and foremost, I think it'd be really great if we can hear a little bit more about each of you really quickly, what you do, kind of your career trajectory, where you came from, all that fun stuff. So why don't you start off?
Sure. Can everybody hear me? Cool. Yes, so I'm a designer and illustrator and writer.
What's your name?
Jez. My name is Jez. Hello. Thanks, Andre. My name is Jez. The things I just said are true. Let's see, what do? I do a lot of illustration and design. Last year I had a book come out called Dictionary Stories, which was a book of constrained fiction written with example sentences from dictionaries. And that is a pretty good indicator of the kind of things that I make, which are totally inexplicable. Yes, I think that probably explains enough.
My name is Carissa, and there was a gentleman who asked last time, how do you tell everybody what you do really rapidly? And this is something I've been working on for many years, and I'm still not able to. But I moved out to San Francisco because I didn't get into any other graduate programs, and I can't leave. And it's been 12 years, but I just finished, or I'm a co-founder of Culpa Press. Does anyone know what that is in here? But I haven't worked with Luca for a really long time. I am founder of a small company called People I've Loved. And I just had a second book come out with Chronicle, It's Okay to Feel Things Deeply, which is from when I stopped taking my SSRI while I was doing the Facebook residency right after Jez.
Oh, can you guys hear me? It's hard to tell because it just sounds, oh, now I hear it, okay. Well, first, I just wanted to say, thank you guys for coming. It's really hard to do, it's easy to not do stuff, so thank you for doing stuff. No, I'm serious. There's someone who didn't come today that woke up with every intention and I was like, I'm just gonna sleep. And they're missing out, so thank you guys for coming. My name's Andre. To talk about the thing you said really quick about what do you say when you're tired of saying the same thing, there's, if anyone watches basketball, I'm a big basketball fan, and there is the center for the Dallas Mavericks, DeAndre Jordan, normally shoots a horrible percentage from the free throw line, but one thing that he started doing was he would talk to his teammates before he touched the ball, and then he would get up to it, and it would help loosen him up. So one thing I would always say is even I said thank you to you guys, it's a quick reminder that oh, this isn't just about me and I don't exist in this universe or whatever. And it's just a quick way to do stuff. So I always would just say find something to talk about before you talk about yourself, because then it feels less gross. And then now we're gonna get super gross. So my name's Andre. I'm a photographer. I was an Adobe Creative Resident last year. I like to do projects that are about why people are important, and I shoot a lot of portraiture. My friend Kelsey is here, and we worked on a project this year called Blocked from the Ballot that was about voter disenfranchisement in my home state of Florida. That was really, really important to me. I also, I don't know, I do all sorts of things, but at the end of the day, my photography just comes back to can I make something normal seem interesting? And I was really excited to get invited today because sometimes in a room full of tech folks, when they think creative, they think immediately UI, UX, and graphic design. So sometimes creating through photography can feel superfluous and unnecessary. So it's nice to have that moment.
Awesome. Really diverse group. Hope you're all excited. Here's some insights. The topic today, do you all know what it is?
No idea.
Wow, this is embarrassing. For you. Don't worry, you'll get it. So the topic today is instinct, preparation,
Luck.
and luck. So when this topic first came up, I honestly didn't know what it was going to become. Finding your moment. What does that mean when we say that? Finding your moment. If you're a photographer, I think maybe it means you're capturing the right moment as it flashes by, right? Or if you're a designer or an illustrator or an artist, it's capturing an idea before it escapes you. But it can be many other things too, right? So we're going to dive into this topic and hopefully get a lot of good insights from this group. And I want to start by asking each of you, of these three things, which one do you think has contributed the most to your career success? If you had to pick one, and why?
Between luck, preparation, and what was the last one?
Instinct.
Instinct.
Is it okay to say luck, but I don't know if I believe in luck?
Elaborate. This sounds great.
Well, no, I mean, I guess I think I want to acknowledge that I came to being in a time where I had parents of lower income, but people who believed in me, and I grew up with the idea that I could do things, which I don't know if I had a lot of advantages, and I feel like I guess I don't know. Going back to how would I define luck, or how are we defining these terms that we're supposed to align with?
Maybe we'll come back to that.
Okay.
I think that's a very good answer. First and foremost, like there's no right answer here, right? Like we'll align on what our definitions are, but really I want to hear from your perspective right now, again, what you think of these three things really contribute the most to your career. And the answer is probably realistically, well, it's all of them, of course, right? With some hard work and some networking and all these things, right? But if you had to pick one of these three, what would it be? So luck, sounds like. What else we have?
Preparation, probably.
Why?
Because I'm not a very instinctual person, and it's probably split evenly between preparation and luck. Because preparation feels like the vast majority of what I do, and then luck is just kind of like the sprinkle of goodness that kind of pushes it over the finish line. Instinct, I don't really trust myself a lot with that. I just kind of rely on the other two to get to the finish line, I think. Yeah.
Jez, what's something you prepared for? Like, talk about your preparation. I'm curious, since you made a book about dictionaries.
Yeah, well, I mean, that book felt like entirely preparation, because it was a lot of time spent reading and taking all of those example sentences from a dozen dictionaries, learning about lexicography, meeting lexicographers, spending a lot of time kind of tending to spreadsheets, which is, I feel like 90% of what I do now, which is very exciting. Yeah, it's just kind of, I think preparation gives me confidence, because I can come to a task, or I can come to an idea knowing that I've spent a completely implausible amount of time working on it, and that's what, yeah, the luck is just kind of comes in at the end and takes all of that preparation to somewhere, hopefully, but the preparation is what gives me confidence, I think.
Interesting. So I guess that leaves me with instinct. I don't know.
Are you being honest, or are you just taking it?
I'm not like a hunter, but I will try. Well, I mean, when I think about instinct, I think about the idea that like, how many people don't live in San Francisco that are here? Are there any New York people?
One person from New York.
The thing that's going to be really interesting about New York in particular is like, I always joke that everyone that moves to New York moved because they think they're like God's gift to everything. No, I mean, we all do. You move and you're like, oh, no. Watch. And so I think the thing that makes it really interesting when we were talking about instinct is like, I was born in the country of Jamaica. I have to say that because when you're in New York, people say Jamaica Queens. Then we moved here, and if any of you are Jamaican, like my friend in the front row here, or have immigrant families, you understand that concept that like, if nothing else, you will always be prepared. Like, and that's just like drilled into you. But I think instinct is really fascinating because it can be the idea that you know to put yourself in a position to be somewhere that will allow luck to happen to you, which can be really difficult and messy because we all know people that we went to high school with or college or just from anything that you think might even be more talented than you are or more prepared but can never seem to like get it together. And I think that for me, instinct is maybe like an arm of preparation because I try to spend time learning from other people, even if it's not something I specifically can work on, because when you hear about other people's experiences, like it's a quote I heard when I was in high school that like a poor man, like a dumb man doesn't learn from his mistakes, a wise man learns from his mistakes, and a smart man and a wise man learns from others' mistakes. Just like understanding that maybe if we're talking about the idea of networking from before, that you know, if you're farming, just like over time, sometimes you'll get stuff that like maybe you don't need, but you can still learn from. And so a lot of times when I'm talking to people that work in mediums that I don't necessarily do, it's helpful because if they talk about their process, I might be able to understand like next time I'm talking to someone that's a designer that may want to hire me for something, how they articulate this, is it the same level of detail that I got from this other person? And I think that instinct is so much of like kind of calcified learned behavior. Does that make sense? Or is that weird? Okay, it makes sense, whatever. And so, yeah, that's what I try to draw instinct from is like, you always get vibes from people and taking a minute to ask like, what is it that I'm learning from this person? Do I feel like I'm getting a bad vibe because I feel threatened that they are more intelligent than I am and I could actually learn something from them? Am I getting a bad vibe because I feel like they don't provide value for me, and am I being selfish and gross, or like whatever that is? But just trying to like, I think instinct is like a lot of that is preparation through speaking to others, and the last part of it is like trying to be honest with yourself about why you feel the way you feel, and it could like maybe help you, maybe not get everything you want, but feel comfortable with what's available to you.
Very well said.
Okay.
Really good stuff in there.
Don't do that. See, no.
Hey, we're on the clock. We're on the clock.
No, please don't.
So I have to be honest, just so everyone's aware, while we're on this theme, we did not prepare for this at all. In fact, this is the first time I've met these people, with the exception of Jez. With that said, I was really expecting each of you to say luck would be the number one thing.
Why were you expecting us?
Thanks for asking.
Sorry.
That was like a great setup. Because usually when you talk to people who are really successful in their careers, it's always, the hard work. It's always some of the instincts and some of the preparation. But luck is that one thing that we can't really control, right? And so whenever we feel really successful in our lives, and if you're humble at least, you'll kind of say that the universe presented those things to you rather than it was all hard work, right? Like, I don't really know anyone who has gone somewhere through just hard work. I mean, certainly it happens, but I personally don't know anyone. There's always a little bit of luck. There's always a little bit of preparation. There's always like the mix, right? So I'm a little bit surprised, but I'm really glad that we have such great diverse answers. This will be good. So I have a few questions following on what we just talked about and what you all just shared. So one thing I want to talk about actually goes back to what I was just saying, where preparation, it's preparation. You do it. It's an action you either do or do not do. You prepare, right? And sometimes you don't know what to prepare, and sometimes you do. And instinct is something you can develop over time, right? Or through networking, meeting people. But luck, do you think that luck is something that you can influence in some way?
Very vaguely. I feel like you have to present yourself as, I think you have to court it. I think you have to, in some kind of hand-wavy cosmic way, you have to be like, I am ready to receive luck. And I really liked, I think it was Karen who was talking about farming. I really like that metaphor, and it's kind of like this idea of planting seeds specifically. When I think about preparation and how it relates to luck, it's always being a creative person and just planting as many seeds as humanly possible. And these seeds are making work, putting it out, meeting people. Plenty of people are probably like planting seeds here today, like meeting folks they've never met. And then you do that as much as humanly possible, and then you hope that like some of them will take root, and some of them you'll never see again. They'll just completely die out. But I think you just have to it's a numbers game. You just have to plant as many as possible, and then luck is more likely to come to you. It's not a guarantee, but it's better than planting nothing and just like complaining that you're not lucky.
Yeah, I think there's a great famous, infamous quote actually of, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of, when it comes to like building your Excel sheets, how much of luck plays into that, if any? Like,
this is a wild panel, just like getting right into the spreadsheets, huh? All right. Sorry.
I'm really fascinated by the fact that, okay, let's actually, don't answer that question. Don't think about that question.
Thank goodness.
Because
the entire audience just took a sigh of relief.
I have another one for you,
okay,
related to your Excel sheets, which is this. When we talk about doing creative work, and I think we're all creatives here in this entire room doing different types of creative work, and creativity, we all know, is the process of coming up with ideas or work that is both original and valuable, right? And you can debate that all you want. But when it comes to things like preparation and instinct, do you feel like those sometimes are in competition with creativity? If creativity is saying, come up with something new and original, how do you prepare for something that's going to be new, right? Do you have any thoughts on that? You can always go back to the Excel question if you want.
I'm not sure. I understand the idea that me saying I spend so much time just looking at data and using that to pull art out of it. I mean, that's not a new thing. A lot of people do that. A lot of fascinating artists use a lot of data. But it's actually, I find it kind of freeing that the majority of the time that I spend making art or attempting to make art is something that is distinctly unglamorous. Because it means I don't have ideas above my station about how grand it's going to be. I'm just kind of, this is dull. This is very dull, and eventually it will turn into something interesting. I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah.
Can either of you relate?
Yeah, I think it's something elusive that but for me, I can't stop planning it because it's become sort of a drug addiction. to make something that somehow is exciting and meaningful. Like it's really difficult to find for me personally. I feel a sense of worth from it, and it's fucked up to have all of your value be sort of in these eggs that are kind of uncontrollable, and you have to sort of have this faith, which I think I'm going to redefine faith as preparation and instinct and luck. But I think I was reading recently. I think it was. Are you familiar with Bo Lotto? He did the experiment with the monkeys, or people throwing a ball, and then this monkey walks past and nobody sees it. They show it to you first year art school. But he wrote a book recently trying to pinpoint where free will exists. And I think in his mind, if I'm probably doing a horrible job, it exists in sort of how you remember the past, and then that sort of instinct drives your decisions before you're conscious of making them. And I think back to how are we defining these? I keep going back to like I don't these definitions don't they're a little too fluid for me. But I'm also going through a crisis of meaning in my own head at the moment. So I think had I not, but I don't know. How do you feel?
You handed me a like actual grenade. You were like, here you go, deal with it.
You don't have to, but I think you're prepared.
Right now for this? Okay. I don't know. We had a big meeting this morning. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, just so I'm clear, repeat the question one more time.
Yeah, so the question, again, to reiterate, going back, is that creativity kind of asks us to come up with something new and unique and valuable, and it's kind of like foreign. You recognize something that's creative because it's usually a little bit off-putting at first. If that is true in the case, let's, for the sake of discussion, say that it's true, how then can you prepare for the thing that you shouldn't be able to prepare for? Or how do you build instincts around something that might be foreign?
I think it's particularly interesting for whichever number of photographers in the room, because you can understand, well, first, like, especially if you live here, you must be either really good or have like a great partner that makes a lot of money. In case you didn't understand what great partner might mean. But I think that like it can be really dangerous because as we all make brand words and brand books to describe what we want, photography specifically and writing fall into really similar like tropes. Like I want this to be light and airy. I want this to be like gritty and edgy. And you can be in a position where you're making work that other people have made so that you have enough money to eventually do the stuff you want, but you're too tired to eventually, and then you're confused and frustrated, and it's like this really weird cycle of things. And so, I don't really know how to be super prepared. I think for me, it's like, first and foremost, finding new ways of bringing in medium that like interest me. So like every year I always have a new resolution. I'm gonna shoot more video. And every year I like can never seem to get that rolling, because I realize that I think a lot of times I watch film just because the construction of a single shot is super interesting to me. And that will stick in my mind more than anything else. And the pursuit of trying to find something that translates something visually that way in a photograph helps me a lot just to keep going and moving. And the other thing is like, huge Childish Gambino fan, and one of his things he says in a song is like, they're gonna see you how they wanna see you until you make them see you in another way. And so that means that if it's like 5% of your time for the whole year working on something new, or if it's like just studying something you don't know how to do, it's maybe not the process of getting to make it, but the process of making yourself say like, I can't keep doing this single thing is helpful. And I don't know if it like will ever translate to something new, but like I have to, it could be just ADHD, but I have to like force myself to look at new things, and I prepare for maybe getting to make new different stuff by looking at other people's stuff and talking about it. Like that process is super helpful for me because it reminds me like, hey, like they did it, they're confused about it, and maybe there's some pieces I can learn from, and maybe I'll make something that looks like something. Like I might be like, this is brand new, it's so badass, and like 3 weeks later, this has been made like in 1500 whatever year, before Black people could vote. Sorry. And so basically, like you just learn that I don't know how many things are actually original, but the pursuit of it is what helps me. And at the end of the day, like I should be excited that I get to make stuff for a living, which isn't what everybody gets to do, or maybe some people want to do and don't get to. So that's kind of where I lay my brain on that.
Yeah, thank you. So that makes me think two questions, and I'll let you pick which one calls to you the most as a group. So the first one comes back to something you kind of touched on a little bit, which is the distinction between like doing creative work for a full-time job versus these side projects, and where things like your instincts or luck or preparation come into play with side projects versus like full-time work or working for a client or something, right? So the first question is like, how is it different for each of those scenarios, full-time work or side projects?
I think in your preparation, you can better steer your clients away from stuff that you know will lead you to a bad trope. Because if you're prepared enough, like I'm sure you guys are, and all of you are, you make a bunch of stuff, and you know when someone says, I really want this to be light and gritty, you're like, yo, hold on. One of these words doesn't work here. And being able to identify that through repeated preparation is like really, really valuable, and I think that is the thing that really, really helps. But on the other end, preparation for personal projects can be literally anything. So it depends. Like maybe you just decide you're going to see 10 Broadway shows this year and pay attention to how it's lit, and like that inspires you. I think that's the thing that you don't really know sometimes how you're going to react to stuff. But with clients, I think preparation is the most important thing, because the luck and the instinct and the preparation got you to that meeting, and then from there you can like make sure you command the room properly, that you're not like a slave to what they think they want but don't know.
I don't know if you two have the same approach, but I often find that my side projects are in direct opposition to whatever I'm doing full-time at that point. Like if there's a ton of ambiguity in what I'm doing full-time, then anything I do as a side project, if I can, is going to be straight down the line, and I'm going to understand everything about it. Or if there's too much preparation going on in my day job, like the thing that I will do will be I will be very unprepared, and it will be very loosey-goosey. And I don't know, that's always the way. Side projects have always been a release. Like if I have the time, because I think being able to do side projects is a unique privilege, because not everybody is capable of doing that. But whenever I found myself doing them, they're always the opposite of what I'm doing in the daytime.
And you're saying that's intentional?
Yes, yeah, because it's missing something that I need, and I'm going to try and engineer that for myself in side projects.
I'm not sure. I think I'm having problems with boundaries today, because I was going to say I don't have side projects. Everything, I don't know if I can look at things without the lens of having it being for something or for someone, or I have to make payroll, and how do I take time to like garden when these sort of realities of existing in this time and space kind of, I'm working really hard to have that spaciousness, to maybe not have an agenda or not have to think of things in terms of economics, and go on long walks by the beach and eat pizza in the sunset kind of thing. I don't know why I'm looking at you.
So would each of you say that, Jez, you just talked about how you have to have that balance. We talked a little bit about how you have to like consider all of these complicated components of the work. Do each of you feel like you got to this realization of how to work best, how to focus best, how to prepare, how to build up your instincts just through experience, or were there other tricks or tips, or did you have mentors? Like, how did you learn this way of working for yourselves?
I think I watched both of my parents fail over and over and over again. And I think, I'm not saying that they were resilient in any way, because both wanted creative careers. And I was destined to be a nurse, but I'm really afraid of bodily fluids, and or go into the military, which also I don't know if I would be able to survive that. But I think having those, even though they weren't successful role models, being very sort of knowing that it was an option, even though it wasn't presented as one, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I don't know where.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so I wanted to jump in here and specifically ask, you mentioned that you kind of watched your parents fail and get up again and fail, and yet earlier you said that luck was a tremendous part of your success. So what was the role that luck played in your parents' lives?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I think that, I mean, yeah, they were living in a different time and a different space, and I think I definitely had more opportunities in them in terms of, I think it's been a gift and a curse to be able to promote, like when you don't have people who promote you, to be able to do it on social media, to be able to get your work out there in ways that in previous generations, you know, if someone in charge said, you know, I don't like red, you can like take agency and find somebody who loves red and, you know, go from there. So I think a lot of it, timing. I also think that they even though my parents were like really upset at the idea of going to art school, they didn't like disown me or hate me for it or resent me. They didn't pay for it, but there wasn't that option for them to do that, I think. Did that answer that?
Yeah, that was very helpful. So again, for Jez and Andre, the question would be, how did you come to learn this way of working, or how did you come to learn to embrace whether you know it's your instincts or your preparation? How did you learn this?
Trial and error. It's the boring answer, but it's true. And also just being confident enough to be like, no, I think this is the way that I work best because I've tried it enough and it's gone poorly enough. I think it's the universe is trying to suggest, like, please stop doing that. And you've obviously found the thing that you enjoy doing and that it feels uniquely you. So listen to yourself a little bit more. That's a very new agey way of thinking about it, but it works in my experience. I don't know about you, Andre.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. The only thing I would add is that sometimes it's helpful to have someone that you trust enough to be, people use the word feedback a lot, just someone you trust enough to be critical with you about what you did positively and negatively in moments that are large. So sometimes if I'm doing something that I don't know what I'm doing, like I'll have a shoot or something, but like a lot of times I'll put myself in a low stakes version of what the high stakes thing is going to be later. But you have that person there so that they can say like, hey, you didn't do a good job of this, or like this, oh, this is different or better. Because I think a lot of times, like, I was joking with my friend Jared sitting in the front, and I was his intern at Groove Shark. You guys remember Groove Shark? It's great. There, you know, if I did something wrong, I could say, he could be like, hey, these are the steps I saw you go through. So like, instead of having a mentor that's far away and calling them and being like, Brenda was such a crazy person today, I can't believe she'd do that. And it's peppered with like my opinions of what the narrative was and not what actually happened. It gets in the way of like whatever that personal growth is. And I think that for me, having someone that is not have to be the same person or anything, and also making yourself available to do it for other people, but someone that knows how you work, is present in some of it, and can give you like honest, like, hey, this didn't work, or like you tried this thing and it like maybe wasn't smart, or this was better than it was. It just helps you listen to yourself better and understand what things you're skipping over in your brain. Like, oh no, I didn't scream at that person. Like, what are you talking about? Just like things like that. That's always been really helpful.
So another question that I have for each of you. When we're looking externally outside of ourselves, even when it's people maybe we don't know very well, or we don't work with closely, and we see them succeed, often, I'll show you my perspective, then I'd love to hear yours, is you kind of attribute their success to luck, right? More often than not. Agree? Disagree?
Depends on the person.
Yeah.
In which situations would you attribute their success to luck versus preparation or instinct or something else?
Depends how salty I'm feeling that day.
That's true.
It's like, oh, it's just
Very,
luck.
very true.
I think I've trained myself sort of as a coping mechanism to just assume everyone has it better than me and also is smarter and more deserving, and which sometimes works for coping, but other times just kind of makes you feel shitty. So I think I assume it's not luck well, maybe luck. I think going back, I also wanted to mention something that you said made me think about it that I kind of feel like I've been hiding, is that when something that I did get for luck is I met someone who, when I was fired and had no money, floated me and fed me for about 6 months, which I feel like was very lucky. And then I somehow coerced him to marry me. And now
Literally, what did I say?
it's
What did I
exactly what you said.
So if anyone wants to marry me,
You're available?
my number, not my number, my name is right there. You know.
I honestly don't know how to follow it up.
No, I'm just kidding. I completely forgot.
All right, don't worry about it.
Yeah, we'll just skip
It's all right. We're gonna keep going. So, do you believe that luck has played a critical role, specifically you two, in your careers?
Yeah, I mean, how many people move to New York and are like, I want to be a photographer and can't stay for more than 9 months? Like, things are expensive and capitalism is dangerous, and it leads to, like, for it to exist, the concept of opportunity is that a lot of people don't get it, and it allows a certain number of people to make the things they want and then pretend that we're like infinitely better or the lords of something. And that's not true. I think that luck has led me to some of the right people. It's saved me sometimes when I've said some things I shouldn't have, and maybe that voicemail didn't save, or I didn't send that text message, or maybe that work I did didn't end up getting published, or just, there's an infinite number of things that I can attribute to like get me to this point right now. So I think it's super interesting. Like, I try to always be really thankful because there are people like that I know have worked really hard their whole life and didn't get the opportunities to just even feel heard. Like, something really cool is to get to sit on a panel or to be in this small room where we have to all get to talk together, because it empowers us and says that our creative process is important. And some people just don't get to do that. They intern and then no one hires them, and then they work at Whole Foods. And there's something wrong with Whole Foods, but it's about the rejection of their identity to create. And so I've been able to do that, and I feel thankful for that, and try to remind myself there, like, in no world am I like, can any preparation prepare me to like be important or interesting or anything like that? Like, a lot of people, just gatekeepers, decide, and sometimes they see you because the Instagram algorithm works that day, or there's a tweet, or someone sees your work randomly, or someone doesn't see your work. Like, there's just so many things that kind of get in the way, and I think that it's always really humbling, especially like on occasion, to still experience like pretty serious failure, to remember like, oh, there are many worse and consistent things that could like be worse than this, and I don't have to experience this on average, so I should be really thankful for that. And I think that acknowledging luck helps break up the concept of privilege and the concept of like specialness, but also like creates like an immediate thought of thankfulness for like opportunities. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I kind of want to say, based on that, do you think, and this is a question for all of you, do you think that there are ways to capitalize on that luck, or that's really kind of the point of this whole panel, is like, how do you recognize when that luck has taken place? How do you build the instincts that can acknowledge that opportunity? How do you make sure you're prepared? Like, how do you capitalize when you recognize that luck? How do you take advantage of that opportunity?
I feel like you just answered that question. Being thankful and showing up, or I don't want to repeat what you just said, but it was great.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I always feel really gross about this, because it's funny, like, I shoot a million things, but then like recently I've been shooting stills for the Kamau Bell show on CNN. Have you guys seen it? He's great. He actually lives in Berkeley. And when I came here, I knew I was going to be here, so I emailed him and I was like, hey, like, we should hang out. I didn't hear anything back, and then I emailed him back like, hey, like, I can also take pictures of you and your kids. And he was like, yeah. And so, and like, please, if anyone's close friends with Kamau, he's a super nice person. I'm just messing around. But I think that preparing once you find the luck is just acknowledging what brought you to that place and being comfortable with like doing the Dog and Pony Show again, if it means that you can get to a place where you can then start to command the luck and then transfer it to other people, because it's like about having the right amount of opportunity. And so there are people I know, like so many of you in here probably have like a really cool project that's even like you worked on for 3 days or 5 days that's like super interesting and strong, and you're just waiting for like the right thing to share it. And sometimes if that thing backs up, so it's like 4 or 5 things, then just share it. But like, once something happens, even if it's small or someone who you think is a gatekeeper or someone is acknowledging your work, that's the best time to show it. Just like be prepared and unleash it. So I can go.
Cool. With that, unfortunately, we're out of time, but this was a great time. Thank you all for taking the time. Let's give them a hand.
Thanks for listening.